The version of the frontier most people imagine is clean, controlled, and confident. Guns gleam in the sun. Leather looks new. A revolver fires every time the trigger is pulled, and a rifle cycles smoothly no matter how hard the ride has been. That image was built long after the West was already gone. The real frontier was hostile to machinery. Dust worked its way into everything. Black powder residue hardened like glue. Rain, cold, and heat warped wood and seized metal. Guns didn't fail because they were poorly made. They failed because the land punished anything that wasn't constantly maintained. And out there, maintenance wasn't a bench, a kit, or a bottle of oil. It was whatever a man could reach in the moment his weapon stopped working. What kept guns alive on the frontier wasn't elegance or precision. It was improvisation, ugly fixes, risky shortcuts, methods that damaged steel but bought one more shot when that was all that mattered. If you want more real frontier history without the movie polish, subscribe to Forged and Forgotten. Number 10, river sand scrubbing. When a revolver or rifle seized on the trail, there was no gentle solution. Black powder fouling mixed with dust and sweat until it packed itself into corners that oil alone couldn't touch. Cowboys kneeling beside creeks or riverbanks used what was right there. Fine sand mixed with water became a crude, abrasive paste. A strip of cloth, a scrap of saddle leather, even a torn shirt sleeve was wrapped around a finger or cleaning rod and forced through the bore or across the cylinder face. It stripped fouling fast. It also stripped finish, rounded edges, and scarred rifling. Every pass permanently damaged the gun, but the choice wasn't between clean and dirty. It was between scarred steel that fired or smooth steel that didn't. Surviving frontier firearms show the results clearly. Dull bores, softened lands, and frames worn flat where grit was worked in again and again. No one doing it thought it was smart. They did it because it was immediate. And on the frontier, immediate mattered more than longevity. Number 9, moisture in the cylinder gap. Black powder revolvers didn't usually lock up deep inside the mechanism. They locked where the cylinder met the barrel. Fouling built up fast in that narrow space, and once it hardened, the cylinder stopped turning. Cowboys didn't disassemble guns on horseback. They didn't have time. The fastest fix was moisture, spit, creek water, melted snow. A few drops into the gap softened the fouling just enough to force the cylinder through another rotation. It wasn't clean, it wasn't healthy for the steel, and in cold weather it could freeze solid and make things worse. But when a revolver locked during a long drive or a sudden encounter, a risky fix was better than a dead gun. Many original revolvers still show corrosion and pitting around the forcing cone from repeated exposure to moisture. It's evidence of desperation, not carelessness. Number 8, clearing ignition channels by hand. Percussion revolvers lived or died by holes smaller than a grain of rice. If fouling blocked the fire channel beneath a percussion cap, the gun was finished. Cowboys carried no specialized tools for this. They used what they had: bent needles, bits of wire, the tip of a pocket knife. A man would strip off the spent cap, tilt the revolver downward, and probe the channel until the packed residue cracked loose. It took patience and steady hands. Too much force damaged the nipple. Too little accomplished nothing. Surviving cap and ball revolvers show concentric scratching around the nipples where improvised tools were driven in repeatedly. It was slow, awkward work done under pressure. But clearing that channel brought the gun back from silence. And silence on the frontier was dangerous. Number 7, rawhide compression repairs. When wood cracked, nothing on the frontier replaced it properly. Stocks split from recoil. Forearms cracked after hard knocks against saddle trees. A broken stock meant a useless rifle. Rawhide became the solution because it behaved in predictable ways. Soaked in water, it became pliable. As it dried, it shrank tighter than clamps. Cowboys cut strips from lariats, saddle scraps, or fresh hide. They wrapped cracked wood tight, knotted it down, and let time do the rest. When the hide dried, it locked the crack closed. It wasn't pretty. Rain softened it. Heat made it brittle, but it held long enough to keep a rifle in service. Some original frontier rifles still bear compressed grain and shallow impressions from rawhide wraps long since removed. They weren't meant to last decades. They were meant to last the ride. Number 6, horsehair pull-through cleaning. Cleaning rods snapped. Brushes wore out. When that happened, cowboys turned to horsehair. Braided tail hair formed a coarse rope that could scrape fouling without metal tools. Weighted with a small stone or nut, the braid was dropped through the bore and pulled back and forth in long strokes. It removed residue and dust effectively enough to restore function. It also scratched steel and left fibers behind if it frayed. But horsehair was always available, required no tools, and could be remade quickly. Military field notes and civilian journals both mention hair pull-throughs, used when nothing else survived the trail. The faint spiral scratches seen in some antique bores today are likely not factory marks. They're the fingerprints of this method. Number 5, wax-sealed cartridges. Ammunition that absorbed moisture was worthless. Early rimfire and black powder cartridges leaked easily. Cowboys melted candle wax or tallow and sealed the joint where bullet met case. A thin ring of wax hardened into a barrier against rain, river crossings, and dust storms. It wasn't uniform. It smelled. It cracked in heat and flaked in cold. But sealed cartridges fired when unsealed ones failed. Archaeological finds and private collections still show cartridges with uneven yellow rings hardened around the case mouth. It wasn't a refinement, it was survival math. One sealed round was better than 5 soaked ones. Number 4, improvised firing pins. When a firing pin snapped, a gun became dead weight instantly. Replacement parts were not an option on the open range. Cowboys shaped makeshift strikers from nails, needles, harness rivets, wire, and broken tools. Lantern light and patience turned scrap into function. These pins rarely lasted long. They pierced primers. They shattered again, but they struck hard enough to fire a few rounds. Sometimes that was all that was needed. Surviving rifles show mismatched screws, scarred bolts, and uneven pin channels from these repairs. It wasn't craftsmanship, it was urgency. Number 3, modified hammer notches. Carrying a revolver fully loaded was dangerous. One fall could fire a round unintentionally. Before reliable safety systems existed, some cowboys filed shallow notches into hammer faces to let the firing pin rest between chambers. It was precise work done without proper tools. Too deep and the hammer weakened. Too shallow and it slipped. When done correctly, it reduced accidental discharges significantly. Gunsmith ledgers from frontier towns mention discreet hammer work for riders who carried daily. Surviving revolvers show uneven grooves polished smooth by use. It was a quiet modification that saved lives without drawing attention. Number 2, grease packing. Before commercial gun oil was available, animal fat filled the gap. Tallow and grease were melted and worked into moving parts. Cylinder pins, bolt rails, springs, and triggers were coated to repel moisture and slow fouling buildup. Too much grease attracted dust. Too little accomplished nothing. In cold weather, it stiffened. In heat, it liquefied. But it kept actions moving longer than dry steel. Many antique firearms still show pale residue deep in mechanisms where fat once lived. It wasn't elegant, it was effective enough. Number 1, buffalo tallow emergency lubrication. When everything else failed, buffalo fat remained. Hunters rendered it by the pot, thick, waxy, resistant to cold and water. When rifles froze or revolvers seized, a fingertip of tallow worked directly into the action, brought steel back to life. It smelled, it gathered grime, it went rancid. None of that mattered, it worked. Buffalo hunters, scouts, and cowhands trusted it because it was always available and always better than nothing. Some surviving rifles still carry faint traces in hidden recesses. Proof of a last resort that kept guns firing when the frontier offered no second chances. The real frontier didn't run on perfect equipment. It ran on damaged tools kept alive by men who understood trade-offs. Every fix shortened a gun's life, but extended a man's. Spit, sand, grease, rawhide. None of it was noble. All of it was necessary. Hollywood shows polished steel because polish looks heroic. The truth is harder to watch. Survival on the frontier was maintenance under pressure, decisions made in dirt and cold, and tools held together just long enough to matter. If you stayed to the end, you care about how things actually worked, not how they're remembered. Subscribe to Forged and Forgotten, and tell me in the comments which of these fixes you trust if your life depended on one shot.